John Weber in the Lowcountry. Today's video I think you're going to find very interesting. We're going to discuss Hindsight Home Inspections in relation to several problems that are uncovered in inspections, and Belmont Insurance Group with Marc Ricciardi, who's going to talk about the insurability of these issues. So if you're interested, I think you're going to really like this video. So this video is being sponsored by Hindsight Home Inspections and Belmont Insurance Group, and I'm going to let these two guys talk about these issues that Scott finds in homes and Marc tries to insure. So I think you're going to find this really interesting. I'm going to let these two talk.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
So this is Marc Ricciardi. I'm Scott.Frieden. A couple of the things that we want to talk to you about today were EIFS, which is synthetic stucco. There are a lot of problems with that one. Marc's going to touch on the insurance side of that. Also, polybutylene is a material for water distribution that we have some issues with, and then also we wanted to cover some information about wind mitigation. I'll do some of the explanation on my side, but more importantly, it's for the insurance industry, this guy is one that you really want in your corner. It's a unique area that we live in for all these implications. So reach out to Marc with any of these questions. So as far as EIFS is concerned, synthetic stucco, big problems from the 1970s through the 90s. Not just installation, but material itself. So creates a big headache for any homeowner, big costs, huge costs. And Marc, can you get insured if you have EIFS in the house?
Not today. It's very difficult. So what we find is that it's a question on every insurance application with just about every carrier that we represent, right? Is the house have an EIFS system as far as the signing goes? So it's really problematic, which is why we rely really on the home inspection process to identify that, and then we rely on folks like John and his team to come up with a solution as far as the real estate transaction is concerned, because the insurability around EIFS right now is limited to nothing, right, in terms of availability from carriers, mainly because of the water intrusion issues that it's been known to cause, right? Water kind of getting in behind due to whether it's bad installation or the system itself, and causing significant water damage, which carriers generally do not like. So
yeah, you got it. Yeah, so I guess that would kind of bring us over to polybutylene. So polybutylene regionally here is very easy to spot. It's always been gray. Now throughout the country they do use different colors, but if you see gray pipe here regionally, it means you have polybutylene. I need to report if I have polybutylene found at an inspection that it is there. It's not necessarily a deficiency, but it does have certain implications that come along with polybutylene. One is, can you get insurance if you have polybutylene?
Same answer, right? We've got very, very limited markets. Essentially, no is the answer to that question. We're going to want to see replacement. A lot of times we'll have clients that will come to us and say, hey, we've got polybutylene in the house, but it's got copper fittings, right? The question on the insurance application is, does the house have polybutylene, yes or no? And so in full disclosure, we always, if it does have polybutylene, we check yes, and it usually results in a declination. Again, a lot of times it's back to the real estate teams to kind of figure out what the solution is to get that polybutylene replaced. It's not as intrusive as one would think. It's a pretty quick process. And so it can be done here locally by a number of different contractors.
Got it. Okay. So wind mitigation is another kind of category that I want to briefly touch on. This is going to be more in Marc's arena as far as what does it mean. I'll tell you from my side what we inspect, and then Marc can kind of tell you, it's not really a decline. There are different avenues with wind mitigation. So wind mitigation, what we look for first of all is the style of roof, how that roof was built altogether. Is it hip, is it gable, flat, shed, these kind of things. So that does have a factor into the insurability. Also how that roof is attached to the house itself, the roof to wall connection. There are different forms of fasteners and attachments that I need to tell Marc that's what this house is fastened, right? The garage doors is another one. So garage doors have to have specific components to meet wind mitigation standards for South Carolina. Also the windows, so that's going to be probably the biggest one. So the windows, That's huge. So if you have impact resistant windows at the house, that does not mean necessarily that they are going to be rated for wind mitigation standards, and that's kind of a really tricky one for the most part, right? So I'm going to turn over to Mark, because again, that doesn't mean it's going to be a declination. It could be an adjustment on a lot of different areas. So Mark, just explain a little bit how that works.
So good news, right? So I've given you all bad news so far, but now we got good news. So we've talked before in these videos about the challenges that we face as far as insurance is concerned here along the coast in South Carolina. And so one of the things that helps us present a exposure to an insurance company and tell the story is if we can get a wind mitigation inspection report done, right? So that would be somebody like Scott, who's a certified wind inspector in the state of South Carolina, and it's a 2 to 3 page form that has various criteria based on building codes. Some of these credits will maybe come automatic to a policy depending on year of construction, but there's a few property and years really like in that 2003 and kind of prior, where the house maybe has some of the wind mitigation techniques built in, but they weren't necessarily coded in South Carolina at that time.
That's right.
So if we're able to capture those on that form, a lot of times that can improve the overall cost of the insurance along the coast here in South Carolina. And certainly from an eligibility standpoint, if it's got impact resistant windows and it's got all the proper mitigation techniques as far as fortifying the home against wind, that's going to allow us to open that marketing up to more carriers, which ultimately should be able to provide you with a better quality carry overall, but also in addition to that, potentially drive the cost down of the insurance. So wind mitigation reports are critical. If we could get them done on every house we insure, that would be our dream. We recognize that's not always the case, but we do try to push for those when we can.
Got it. So from what I just took here from our conversation, there are a lot of different moving parts and variables on all three of these categories that we just kind of addressed. So if you do have further questions, please feel free to reach out to myself and Mark. We're happy to help answer questions and guide you down the right path. Again, it's super critical in this specific area to have the right people in your corner, people like John Weber, Marc Ricciardi, and myself, not to mention the rest of our team. So until then, I appreciate your time.
Anyway, thanks guys, really do appreciate it. I'm going to put the contact information for both of these gentlemen down below. You can call either one of them and they'll answer the questions on the wind mitigation. I've had several clients that had to get that form and fill it out, and I'm sitting there when I first heard about it, I go, what is it? So it's a common thing down here, just like they said. So John Weber team will take care of you buying a home. We've got an incredible support team with our ambassadors, 2 of them standing right next to me. So give us a call or call these gentlemen and answer a lot of your questions. Glenn?
Belmont Insurance Group.
You changed it.
Well, it's always been that, but it's now formalized.
Your logo says
services.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Okay. John Weber here in the Lowcountry with 2 of my good buddies, Scott Frieden, Hindsight Home Insurance, Marc Ricciardi, Belmont Insurance Cut.
Let's do Hindsight Home Inspection instead of insurance.
All right.